I'm in Yilan County on Taiwan's east coast, where a small fishing community is being battered by Typhoon Gaemi, bringing monster waves, huge winds, just as the highest tides of the year reach this area.
Preparing for the worst. Schools and offices shut down across Taiwan as Typhoon Gaemi gets ready to make landfall. Just off the Chinese coast, troops on Taiwan's outlying islands test their combat readiness as part of the country's largest annual military drills. Plus, where words fail, music speaks. Celebrated singer-songwriter Ah Bao is taking her blend of indigenous melodies and multilingual lyrics to Paris this summer. Hello and welcome. I'm Eric Gao. Thanks for joining us here on TaiwanPlus News. We begin with the latest on Typhoon Gaemi, which is set to make landfall on Taiwan's northeast coast in just a few hours. The storm is packing winds of well over 200 kilometers an hour, and the whole country is on high alert. At least one death from the storm has already been confirmed. Schools and offices have been closed nationwide. Financial markets are shut. More than 2,000 people have been evacuated from their homes, and dozens of flights have been canceled. 29,000 soldiers have been put on standby to help with relief efforts. Stay with us here on TaiwanPlus for ongoing coverage of the storm. We will be live in Taipei in a moment. Reese Ayers is looking at what's being done to help homeless people in the capital. And Rick Lauert is in Yilan, where the typhoon is expected to make landfall. It's home to one of Taiwan's largest ports, which has been scrambling to prepare for the storm. But we begin our coverage with Tiffany Wong on how the rest of the country has been preparing for what could be the worst storm to hit Taiwan in nearly a decade.
Bracing for destruction, residents on Taiwan's east coast clear out from their mountainside homes as Typhoon Gaemi approaches. It's the first typhoon to make landfall this year and is expected to hit the country on Wednesday.
为什么会全山占10到15零摄领？那是因为那个土石流，就是我们那个后山04、03开始崩落，然后它土石流已经下来到这个无名溪出口这里了。
And many business owners are closing shop. 21 out of 22 cities and counties have announced school and office closures. Elsewhere, there's a sense of calm before the storm.
Here in Taipei, the streets are empty and only a few convenience stores are open, as local authorities are warning people not to go outside unless necessary. Now, office buildings like these are closed, and many of them have prepared barricades and sandbags as they wait for the worst of the storm to hit.
At the Central Emergency Operations Center, President Lai Ching-te asked local authorities to ensure that the order to halt classes and work would extend through the evening when the typhoon is forecast to hit the hardest.
所以我希望我们这个放假应该有包括晚上嘛，因为有时候地方政府下达的命令放假是白天，但是我们要 cover 到晚上，因为晚上也有上课，晚上也有上班了。
The military's also been deployed to prepare to help in disaster-prone areas on the east coast. The typhoon has taken them away from the annual Hanguang exercises meant to test their disaster response capabilities. Now, with a real natural disaster heading this way, the whole country's response systems will have to be mobilized. Andy Xue and Tiffany Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
68-year-old fisher Hong Jun hopes he has done all he can to protect his boat from harm. He's brought it deep into the harbour of his hometown on Taiwan's east coast, as the largest typhoon to make landfall in years is barreling straight towards this port.
像这种台风西北台，直接从这边登陆的台风就比较危险，我们这边损失肯定都会很多的。要是中台以上，这个台风会很大。
Super Typhoon Gaemi is already bringing to this area winds of 100 kilometers per hour and 3-meter high waves. The hundreds of fishing boats that provide this town of 6,000 people with its main source of income have all returned here to wait out the storm. This fishing port is one of the largest in Taiwan. It's protected by surrounding mountains, and for decades fishing ships have come to find shelter here during the typhoons that batter Taiwan most summers. But this storm is bigger than most, and it coincides with some of the highest tides of the year. Residents here are doing what they can to protect their property, and local authorities have banned people from approaching the sea, saying this storm could be deadly.
目前本所正在实施观浪劝离勤务，那采定检及机动巡逻的方式，针对海边逗留观浪的民众实施劝导及驱离。那再次提醒各位民众，在台风期间呢，请不要到海边进行逗留，甚至实施那个戏水及观浪的活动。
Global warming and climate change are making the typhoon season more erratic and less predictable. And although this community was often in the path of typhoons, it's been 8 years since a storm this size made landfall here. And there's a worry that over that period of calm, people here have grown complacent about the sheer power of nature. Alex Chen and Rick Lowett in Yilan County for TaiwanPlus.
Now, let's take a look at the latest trajectory of the typhoon and how it's affecting the country. Louise Watt is in the studio.
The typhoon has been growing in strength on its approach to Taiwan, and it's expected to make landfall on Wednesday around midnight as a strong typhoon here in the country's east. And then Taiwan is expected to see the biggest impacts in the following hours until the typhoon leaves on Thursday on the way to southeast China. Now, it's already been causing lots of trouble transport-wise. Wednesday has seen the cancellation of more than 200 international flights and the cancellation of all domestic flights. That's more than 260 of them. Now, also, Taiwan's schools and offices have been closed across virtually the whole of the country, apart from the county of Jinmen. That's because it was out of the impact zone. But Jinmen has announced that on Thursday it will be requiring schools and offices to close. Now, mountainous areas could see rainfall of up to 1.8 meters. So people have been evacuating those mountain areas, and soldiers are on standby, 29,000 of them, in case they're needed for rescue efforts.
Now, while most people are riding out Typhoon Gaemi in the comfort of their homes, many of Taiwan's several thousand homeless people are seeking refuge in emergency shelters. Reese Ayers is at one such shelter in Taipei. Reese, how are folks there coping as this storm intensifies?
Well, here at this, the Wanhua Social Welfare Center in Taipei, homeless people are gathering to take refuge from this typhoon as it intensifies. You can see behind me, folks are lining up to collect instant noodles and snacks to have for dinner, just trying to stay dry and safe as this typhoon makes landfall tonight. We actually came here early this morning at around 10 a.m. to find a few people already waiting outside, even though the doors didn't open until 5 p.m. Regardless, shelters like these are very important in Taiwan, particularly during the winter months when it gets very cold and during times of intense weather, offering food, dry clothes and water and a place to sleep for the night in this center for up to 40 people.
有的人会到这个类似便利商店，或者是网咖，或者是大卖场之类的地方。那也有的人会身上有钱的会去住旅馆。那如果有的行动不是很方便的，那我们会把他用开车去把他载过来。
Now, there are over 3,000 homeless people in Taiwan. Most of them live in Taipei. That's a relatively low number compared to most other developed nations. But for those 3,000, shelters like these could be life-saving. As we've already seen today, strong winds caused by these typhoons can throw debris in a dangerous way, causing injuries and even deaths. There are at least 2 such service centers like these in Taipei, some even going as far as to send cars out to pick up homeless people who can't make it here on foot. For those that don't make it inside for the night, or those that just don't want to be here, they'll probably end up spending the night in convenience stores or in fast food restaurants. Now, most of the people here are from the local Wanhua district, which is where a large number of Taipei's homeless population live.
给我们食物啊，给我们一个比较舒适的地方，让我们好好的休息这样。要有一些睡袋吧，棉被之类的。
Now, we're not quite sure whether or not this particular centre will open tomorrow. That's still to be decided. But as this storm intensifies, at least they have a place to stay tonight. And they tell me that they hope that it will open again tomorrow.
Thanks for that, Reese. That was Reese Ayers reporting from a shelter for homeless people in Taipei. Taiwan's military is wrapping up live fire drills on its outlying islands as part of annual exercises to practice how to defend the country. And as Jaime Ocon explains, that defense starts just off the coast of China.
Taiwanese ground forces are sharpening their skills on the outlying islands. On Penghu, they're practicing targeting enemy drones. And on Matsu, armored vehicles roll through the streets. Taiwan's military is holding live fire drills as part of its largest military war games, the Hangguang exercise. These annual drills test Taiwan's ability to defend against a potential Chinese invasion. Part of the exercise planned for Taiwan's main island have been cancelled due to incoming Typhoon Gaemi. But others farther away in the outlying islands are going ahead as planned. This drill here simulated defending against an attack on an airport in Jinmen, which sits less than 10 kilometers away from China.
在跟航警做任务的交接，那交接的内容大概就是突入的机降的敌人，他因为这个跟航警接战之后，航警状况不利，退守到塔台。
During this year's drills, the outlying islands will be the only place the military will use live ammunition. That's because these islands play an important role in stopping an attack from China.
很重要是澎湖的位置，你可以把它想象成像是一个 midway 就是如果中国解放军攻击的话，它从西边来的部队就会面对台湾本岛 homeland 的这个 fire。 还有就是澎湖的这个 anti-ship fire 变成一个所谓的 cross fire， 所以对于解放军来讲是很致命的。
The outlying islands play a vital role for Taiwan's security as they are the first line of defense. Security researchers say holding on to the Penghu Islands provides a strategic advantage as they allow the military to flank Chinese ships as they move towards Taiwan's main island.
Maintain that, not quite first strike, but responsive strike posture. And so testing these capabilities, testing the capabilities of Penghu, I think are really, really important. It'll still take, I think, about 12 hours to cross the Taiwan Strait, I believe on even the shortest point. So that's plenty of time for Taiwanese missiles to be hitting and bombarding any sort of forces that come over.
Although only 20% of Taiwan's entire army is stationed on the outlying islands, the country hopes these drills can show what an enemy would have to deal with, even before making it to the mainland, proving that while small, these islands could help Taiwan pack a big punch. Ryan Wu and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
And coming up after the break, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris takes a dig at Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump in her first campaign rally. Stay tuned for more.
This month's top hits on TaiwanPlus.
Let's go. Let's go to Chinese Taipei. Where is it?
Why is Taiwan called Chinese Taipei in international sports? Dive into the complex origins with athletes and experts.
People feel like we are Taiwanese.
It's the music that tells you to be yourself.
Taiwan's indie music scene is calling to you. Time to take Taiwan's musicians to the world.
Delicious plant-based dining in Taiwan.
An elevating vegetarian experience. Join Aggie Xie on Veggie Island to savor Taiwan's diverse dishes.
Hi, I'm Kevin. Welcome to Whirlwind Trip.
Hop on Whirlwind Trip to discover all the fun Taiwan has to offer around the clock.
An exhilarating journey full of culture, discovery, and unforgettable moments.
Vibrant and original programs, exclusively on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. 18 people are dead after a plane crashed in Nepal's international airport in Kathmandu. The plane was scheduled to fly to tourist hub Pokhara along one of Nepal's busiest flight routes. It skidded off the runway and caught fire during takeoff. Local police said only the pilot survived. Nepal has a poor track record on aviation safety. The country's airports are often in mountainous areas that are hard to navigate, and it has seen a series of plane and helicopter crashes over the decades, including the deadliest one last year, which killed 68 people. At least 229 people have died in a series of landslides in southern Ethiopia. Heavy rains caused an initial landslide on Sunday night, burying several people. Then a second collapse occurred the following morning, engulfing many others who had gathered to help. Local authorities say many people are still missing, and they are asking for assistance. They say the devastation is beyond their capacity and that the area is now uninhabitable. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is hitting the ground running in her campaign for the country's top job. She's held her first campaign rally and took the opportunity to slam Republican nominee Donald Trump as a felon. Joyce Sung has more.
With less than 4 months left in the race for the White House, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has made her debut on the campaign trail for the first time at the top of the presidential ticket in the critical battleground state of Wisconsin, pitching her record as a prosecutor against that of convicted felon and Republican nominee Donald Trump.
I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
In an early boost for her Democratic Party, Harris leads Trump 44% to 42% among registered voters in one national poll conducted in the 2 days since current President Joe Biden dropped out of the race. Biden had been trailing slightly behind former President Trump while he was still in the running. And with a new nominee, Democrat heavyweights are excited.
We see very clearly how nervous the Republicans are about our new nominee. Well, they ain't seen nothing yet.
The Harris campaign says it's secured enough party delegates on their side to claim the presidential nomination and raised a stunning flood of donations, now at more than $100 million since Biden stepped down. Harris is also set to inherit the $91 million left in Biden's campaign, which Trump's team has called a brazen money grab, filing a complaint against the funds with the Federal Election Commission. Republican leaders say whether it's Biden or Harris at the top of the ticket makes little difference to their strategy, attacking what they say are Democratic failures.
This election will be about policies and not personalities, and we are delighted to line up the record of President Trump against the Biden-Harris record. Every area of public policy is a disaster because the Biden-Harris administration made it that way.
But among Democratic voters, fresh hope over their new candidate, including from those in the swing state of Pennsylvania.
People are energized. And I'll tell you what, I happen to believe, and I could be totally wrong, I believe we're going to have a blue landslide.
Carmela's going to have to spend a little time in PA. She's going to have to get to know the Rust Belt. I think she could pull it off.
Meanwhile, President Biden is back in Washington after a few days spent recovering from COVID at home in Delaware. He's preparing to address the nation about his decision not to seek re-election. But one thing Biden's already made clear is that he will finish out his term as president and actively support his successor in what's now become Harris's race to the White House. Justin Wu and Joyce Sun for TaiwanPlus.
Tesla boss Elon Musk is asking the public if he should invest more in AI after profits at Tesla dropped 45% from April to June with sluggish electric vehicle sales. Musk asked users on his social media platform X if Tesla should invest $5 billion into his startup xAI. The response from the public so far has been largely positive. And just days earlier, Musk said that Tesla would start making and using humanoid robots known as Optimus in its factories next year with the goal of selling them to customers in 2026. Tesla's earnings announcements follow a shareholders vote in June that gave Musk a record-breaking $56 billion pay package. Trash from at least one balloon sent from North Korea has fallen on South Korea's presidential compound. The Presidential Security Service said the trash was not dangerous and no one was hurt. It's the 10th time that North Korea has floated volleys of balloons carrying garbage across the border with the South since May. In recent days, the South increased its use of broadcasts at the border, including K-pop music and propaganda. Hospitals and clinics in southeastern Taiwan are banding together to waive medical fees for victims of crime. John Van Triest has the story.
4 hospitals and 35 clinics from across Taiwan's southeast have signed an agreement to help victims of crime. They're reducing or even cutting registration fees altogether, a small step toward financially helping the 100 or so people in the region that the local Taidong County considers as crime victims. Taiwan law provides compensation to victims of bodily harm or sexual assault. Taidong prosecutors have ruled that victims can start applying as soon as a court case begins. But not all think this does enough to help victims.
但其实整个程序走完，他们才是完全脱离了这个司法的这个折磨，所以这一段当中的这个一路相伴，其实是非常需要的。
Victims may have an especially hard time recovering financially, since they may be stuck with the bill for any physical and psychological injuries they sustain. Advocates for victims' rights say scrapping basic fees is one place to start addressing this problem.
我们目前可以提供就是减免挂号费的部分。 那这是台东所有诊所协会的会员呢，都愿意共襄盛举。我们优惠的对象会包括他的直系血亲。
These advocates say the registration fee is only the first expense they want to cut for crime victims, ensuring those who've been wronged don't face additional financial pressures. Ethan Pan and John Van Triest for TaiwanPlus.
Indigenous Taiwanese cultures will take the Cultural Olympiad stage in Paris. Among that delegation, one of Taiwan's most celebrated indigenous singers. Reese Ayers sat down for an exclusive interview and performance with Ao Bao and her team of performers.
Bringing a harmony of native voices to the global stage. Award-winning artist Ao Bao and her group of indigenous singers, Nawa, are on their way to Paris to represent Taiwan at this year's Cultural Olympiad.
在我自己现在的厂牌里面，会包容不同的原住民族的音乐创作人。只要你是原住民，你有在做音乐，然后我们就有可能机会可以合作，不管你是 几岁的，从哪里来的。
A member of the Paiwan people, one of Taiwan's 16 officially recognized indigenous groups, Ao Bao is a household name in Taiwan and has been singing for over 2 decades. Recording at first in Mandarin, later in her career, Ao Bao felt a calling to perform in the language of her ancestors.
那个时候我都还没有开始用 母语创作，那是从这一张作品，我开始比较认真的去跟老人家学他们的，去形容这个东西的，还有那个语文的感觉。后来就觉得排湾语很美，然后，很好听，但是它有没有可能可以 mix 一些现在的 pop 的元素在里面？
Ao Bao takes inspiration from the female role models in her family, particularly her grandmother, who helped her learn and write in their native Paiwan. She was dedicated to creating a legacy for her grandmother, who has since passed away.
因为我的外婆她想要录传统的歌谣，她知道我以前是做音乐的，我就拜托我的朋友，我们一起来帮我外婆录一张 他想要留的歌。
It's difficult to put Ao Bao's music into one box. Her style has been described as rock, pop, electronic and reggae. For Ao Bao, these labels don't matter so much, as long as people feel her music and understand what it represents.
我会怎么形容我自己的音乐哦？没有人问过这一题耶。 我想想，我觉得我希望我的音乐一定是感动又动感的，就是 groovy and touch， 很注重一起 together 这件事情。就是我们比较少英雄主义的，就是一个人是 hero， 我们比较少，我们比较是 together to do one thing。
Since incorporating numerous languages into her music, including Mandarin, English, and several local languages, Abao's songs have been used as a teaching tool for the next generation of Indigenous Taiwanese.
我觉得最主要是母语的老师，他们有一个比较活泼的方式，可以告诉小朋友说：“哦，母语可以这样。”
And now, in Paris, she hopes to introduce the beauty of Taiwan's native cultures to the world through the universal language of music.
节奏不需要翻译。
Wow, retail T-shirt.
节奏。I'll make a T-shirt.
Justin Wu and Reese Ayres for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we have more images of the preparations being made around Taiwan as Typhoon Gaemi approaches. I'm Eric Gao. Stay safe, and we'll see you later.